The wind howled across the prairie, carrying dust and the scent of dry earth as the sun bled orange over the horizon. Shadows stretched like skeletal fingers over the abandoned homesteads, their weathered timbers groaning in the evening breeze. A lone wagon creaked along the dusty trail, the wheels rattling under the weight of a young woman clutching her meager bundle. Her dress, tattered and coated in dirt, flapped against her knees. Dust streaked her tear-stained cheeks, and her eyes, wide and haunted, darted over her shoulder as the gravel crunched under approaching boots. From the doorway of a sagging saloon, a man leaned on the fence, whiskey bottle dangling from one hand. His grin was cruel, teeth yellowed, eyes gleaming with malice. "You'll fetch a good price for a drink," he sneered, voice low but laced with threat. The woman's lips trembled as she whispered, almost to herself, "He sold me for a drink." The words shivered into the fading light, carrying the weight of betrayal and hopelessness. She pulled her bundle closer, rocking slightly on the wagon, as if holding on might stave off the pain. From the shadows of a distant ridge, a figure emerged. Tall, broad-shouldered, the rancher's hat flicked dust from the brim, his boots heavy on the hard earth. Scars traced his weathered hands and face, maps of years spent alone under a sun that never forgave. His eyes, steel blue and unflinching, scanned the scene, reading injustice like an open ledger. The saloon man's confidence faltered under that quiet authority, laughter dying on his lips. The woman dared a glance toward him, a fragile spark of hope igniting where fear had burned. The prairie air thickened with tension, the sun slipping below the horizon, leaving only long shadows and a chill that crawled into bones. Silence settled over the tableau, a charged pause that made the dust-laden wind itself seem to hold its breath. The question lingered, sharp as a knife in the gathering dark. Would the rancher move, or let cruelty ride unchecked across the fading prairie? The moon rose slow and silver over the prairie, casting long, ghostly shadows across the rocks and tall grasses. A crackling campfire painted flickering light on the rancher's weathered face and the young woman's tear-streaked cheeks. Silence held the night at first, broken only by the hiss of the fire and the distant cry of an owl. Then, softly, he spoke, voice low and steady, offering a presence she could cling to. I lost them all," she whispered, hands twisting the hem of her dress. "Winter came, and my family, gone. I was sold just to survive." Each word trembled with shame, yet beneath it burned a stubborn spark, a refusal to bow completely to despair. The rancher's jaw tightened. Memories of his own brother, taken in a feud he could not prevent, stirred like embers long buried. He slid a blanket toward her, poured water into his worn tin cup. "You'll be safe tonight," he said, a promise more than a comfort. They shared no further words, yet in the hush of the prairie, an unspoken bond took root, fragile but real. Then the night shifted. The distant thunder of hoofbeats rolled across the hills, harsh and urgent. The saloon men, driven by greed and cruelty, were searching. Her eyes widened, fear sharp as a knife. The rancher's protective instinct flared, muscles coiling beneath dust and leather. They crouched behind jagged rocks, firelight fading into shadows. Every hoofbeat, every snapping twig pressed on their hearts, and the night grew thick with tension. Would their fragile alliance hold? Would the moon witness freedom or capture? The question hung heavy, unanswered, as the sounds of pursuit drew closer, relentless under the indifferent silver sky. Dawn stretched across the prairie in muted golds and reds, mist curling over the low hills like smoke from an unseen fire. The rancher and the young woman moved cautiously, shadows long and uneven across the rough terrain, each step measured against the whisper of danger behind them. He pointed to faint impressions in the dirt. "See these tracks? Horses came through last night. Follow me." She knelt, tracing the marks with trembling fingers, a spark of curiosity breaking through the tension. In return, she spoke softly of simpler days, of laughter around a warm hearth and the smell of bread baking, memories that seemed impossibly distant, yet fiercely alive. The threat of the saloon men, however, never far, pressed against them like an unseen weight. They came upon an abandoned homestead, hoping for shelter, only to find scars of violence etched into the walls. Bloodstains darkened the wood, a door hung broken on rusted hinges, and a child's doll lay cracked and forgotten in the dust. The woman's body shivered, grief and fears mingling in her eyes. The rancher's jaw tightened, a storm of anger and guilt building in silence. Then, movement on the ridge, men silhouetted by the rising sun, rifles glinting like cold fire. Horses whinnied and snorted as dust rose around the fleeing pair. The rancher's voice cut through the clamor, commanding yet tender. "Keep up! Don't look back!" Her heart pounded with every step, fear making muscles ache and breath ragged. A gunshot rang across the prairie, sharp and sudden, freezing the chase in mid-motion. Dust swirled around them, a moment suspended between life and death, leaving the question blazing in the morning air. Who has fallen, and who will survive the relentless hunt? Lightning split the sky across the prairie, and thunder shook the ground like a herd stampeding through the hills. Rain lashed the rocky outcroppings, driving the rancher and the young woman into the hollowed-out cave just as the storm hit its furious stride. Water dripped from jagged ceilings, pooling at their boots, while the wind's howl and the thunder's roar masked the faint crunch of approaching boots. In the flickering glow of a small fire, their vulnerabilities surfaced, he confessed, voice low and gravelly. "I've lost someone to cruelty I couldn't stop." Her hands twisted in the wet folds of her dress, whispering, "And I was sold by a man I trusted." The cave felt tight, walls pressing in, the outside world a blur of rain and unseen threats. Then voices cut through the storm, harsh and confident. Saloon men had found them. She shrank back, trembling, eyes wide in fear. The rancher stepped forward, placing his broad frame between her and the danger. Mud squelched beneath boots as a scuffle erupted, bodies sliding, grappling in the rain-soaked earth. One man fell, the earth swallowing his grunt, while another clutched the woman, dragging her toward the storm's edge. The rancher's eyes narrowed, jaw clenched, every instinct screaming. "Let go of her!" he bellowed, voice cutting through the deluge, every second a heartbeat of choice, protect her or risk everything. Darkness swallowed the cave as thunder roared above, rain pounding like hammers on stone. Only her voice broke through the chaos, a trembling whisper, "Don't let him take me." The question hung in the air, heavy and relentless. Would the rancher's courage withstand the storm of violence closing around them? Morning broke over the prairie like a bruised sky, rain-soaked earth gleaming in muted silver and ochre. Mud clung to overturned wagons, splintered wood jutting at odd angles. A battlefield born of fear and desperation. The rancher stood tall amid the chaos, guns drawn, boots sinking into the mire, eyes locked with the last of the saloon men. A tense silence stretched across the rain-lashed ground, broken only by distant thunder and the hiss of water running through ruts in the earth. The woman, bruised and muddied, pressed her hands to her chest, the weight of fear now tempered with a hard-won courage. Smoke and the acrid tang of gunpowder drifted across the prairie, curling like a shroud over their battle-worn surroundings. Every heartbeat counted as the rancher hesitated, memory threading through him, the whispered words, the desperate plea that had begun this journey. The saloon man spat into the mud, fury flashing in his eyes, but the rancher's gaze remained steady, a hard-earned calm replacing the instinct for vengeance. Slowly, deliberately, he lowered his gun, stepping forward with unflinching resolve. "Enough," he said, voice carrying over the wind and rain. The man faltered, humiliation and rage twisting his features, before finally retreating into the distance, leaving only echoes of fear and the patter of rain. The woman exhaled shakily, tears mingling with rain on her cheeks. You didn't have to," she whispered, voice trembling yet filled with awe. The rancher's jaw softened, eyes reflecting both past regrets and the moral compass that had guided him through countless storms. Together they surveyed the rain-streaked prairie, the wreckage of conflict settling into quiet, muddy stillness. Survival had been claimed not through vengeance, but through restraint, compassion, and the courage to act rightly when it mattered most. Yet beneath the fragile sense of victory lingered the weight of loss and betrayal. Her gratitude and newfound strength shone through tear-streaked features, but the scars, both visible and hidden, remained. Could they rebuild from such cruelty? Could the prairie, once a place of danger and sorrow, ever feel safe again? The question hung in the damp morning air, unresolved, as the first tentative rays of sunlight pierced the storm clouds. The prairie glowed under a warm amber sunset, tall grasses swaying gently in the evening breeze. Weeks had passed since the storm and the violence, and the air now carried the scent of freshly turned earth and smoke from a small, steady fire. The rancher and the young woman worked side by side on a modest homestead, hammer striking wood in rhythm with the whisper of wind. Dust clung to their clothes, sweat streaked their faces, but there was a lightness in their movements, a quiet camaraderie born of trust and shared struggle. Birds returned to the fields, their songs threading through the calm, a reminder that life persisted even after suffering. She laughed softly as he fumbled with a stubborn nail, the sound unfamiliar yet welcome. "Seems you've got two left hands today," she teased, eyes sparkling despite the smudges of dirt and weariness. The rancher grinned, a rare curve of warmth breaking the guarded lines of his face. "Maybe I'm learning from the best," he replied, voice low, carrying both pride and humility. Moments like these were small victories, yet beneath the smiles lingered the memory of loss, the families gone, the terror faced, the nights that had stretched endless with fear. Together, they tended the homestead, planting crops, stacking firewood, and kindling small fires that offered both warmth and hope. Each sunset painted the sky in molten golds and reds, a reminder that even after darkness, light returned. Trauma remained etched in their features, a silent witness to what had been endured. But in the quiet acts of daily life, they discovered resilience, laughter, and trust. As the woman paused, hands resting on a wheelbarrow, she whispered, steady and clear, "Thank you for everything." The rancher nodded, eyes soft but wary, understanding passing unspoken between them. Beyond the homestead, the prairie stretched to the horizon, endless and golden, a testament to courage, moral choice, and the enduring strength of the human spirit. In that vast openness, the promise of tomorrow lingered, a new beginning, fragile yet real, waiting to be claimed.